Happy Tuesday. Before we get started, I'm a hot mess today. We had dirt delivered yesterday, filled up half of our driveway, so we had to move it all today because it's supposed to rain tonight. So, that's why I look like I normally do anyways, but I'm a hot mess. So, let's get through this. So we're going to do 11.1, and it's solving quadratics. We've solved quadratics before by factoring. Now we're going to learn another, well, it's kind of two methods, but first we're going to be doing by taking square roots, and then we're going to do completing the square. So they kind of go hand in hand. So we're first going to start with this. Goal is you want to get the square by itself. Remember when we would do absolute values, you had to get the absolute value by itself. Or when we did the radicals, you had to get the radical by itself before you squared it, right? Same concept. So we need to get the square by itself. Now this first one, we just want to get the x squared by itself. So we are going to subtract 55 from each side. I don't know why I wrote it out, but okay. So we get 5x squared is equal to negative 55. Divide each side by 5. And I get x squared is equal to negative 11. Now I have to take the square. And remember when we were solving the radicals, to get rid of the radical, we squared it. Now we've got a square. So to get rid of the square, we're going to use the radical. So we're going to take the square root of each side. Now, some of you are probably thinking, oh, can't take the square root of a negative number. Well, we learned yesterday that you can take the square root of a negative number now because we have an I. Remember, I equals the square root of 1, negative 1. Okay, so anytime you see a negative underneath the radical, basically what you're doing is you're changing it and you're bringing an I outside of the radical. So if you see a negative, you're going to automatically think, okay, I need an I. So what our answer is going to look like is, now whenever we take square roots, I forgot to put this up here, when you're solving, key word is when you're taking square roots and you're solving, it has to be plus or minus. Okay, that has to be in every single one of your answers. If it's not, you only have, like when we did the absolute values, remember we did to the positive number, to the negative number. Same thing here. If you don't have the positive and negative, you only have half of the answer. Okay? So, first we did that. So I wrote it in there very little because I forgot it the first time. Plus or minus root negative 11. Now I see a negative in there, so I'm going to bring an I out. So I have plus or minus I root 11. And that is my answer. Okay? You can never leave a negative inside your root. Okay? You will always have to take it out. And it becomes an I. Okay? Now let's do this one. We're very fortunate. The square is the only thing on that side. So I don't have to do any rearranging. So remember, to get rid of a square, we take the square root. So that's what we're going to do to each side. So this cancels, so I am left with 2x plus 5. Now, the square root of 49. You're thinking 7. What else do we need? Positive and negative. Because remember, 7 squared is 49, but negative 7 squared is also 49. That's why you have to have both. So we are going to have plus or minus 7. Now just like when we did the absolute values, you're going to split it up. So 2x plus 5 equals 7. 2x plus 5 equals negative 7. And then I solve them each separately. So I'm going to get 2x is equal to 2. X is equal to 1. Same thing here. I'm going to subtract 5 from each side. So I get x is equal to negative 12. divide each side by 2, and I get x is equal to negative 6. So my answers for this one are 1 and negative 6. Okay? Now, let's go to completing the square. Okay. The goal in completing the square is so that we get something that looks like number 2. We have a parenthesis squared equals a number. That is what our goal is, because this doesn't look like that. So we're going to get it to that way. Okay? So, what you're going to do is you're going to move this number to the other side. So I'm going to have x squared plus 18x, and then we're going to be adding something to this side, so I always put a line there, okay? And then we have negative 66. Now, remember, when we have an equation, if I add something to one side, I have to add it to the other. So I put a plus line over here so I don't forget, okay? Now, in every single one, if you notice, the ones that we're going to be doing, there's not going to be a coefficient in front of your x squared, okay? So this is always what you're going to do, okay? If there's a number in front of your x squared, then you have to do something different, but we're not going to be doing that this year. Okay, so this middle term, the x term, you are going to divide it by 2. Just the coefficient, okay? Now, 18 divided by 2 is 9, okay? So you're going to take whatever you get here, and you're going to put it here, and you're going to square it. Okay, does everybody see what we did? We did 18 divided by 2, which is 9, and then I square it, and that's what goes on this line. Now, remember, whatever we put on this line goes on this line. So it's also going to have a 9 squared over here. Okay? So I have x squared plus 18x plus 81. Notice how this number's not changing. We just did it to get this number. We only divided by 2 to get that number. Equals negative 66 plus 81. Okay? So, now I'm going to factor this side. Okay? So when I factor it, I get x plus 9, x plus 9 equals 15. Okay? Remember, if they're the same, we write it squared. So it's x plus 9 squared equals 15. Okay? Now, I have something that looks like what we did in number 2. So now I can take the square root of each side, and I'm going to get x plus 9 is equal to plus or minus root 15. Now, I can't break down root 15, okay? It is what it is. So, we don't have to do anything, but we still have to get our x by itself. So what would you do? You would subtract 9 from each side. So I'm still going to do that. But, notice I can't combine it, so it just becomes negative 9 plus or minus root 15. Okay? Now let's go on to this one. We're going to do the same thing as we did in this problem. I may have to erase some of it, but hopefully I don't write on the wall this time. Okay, so again, we're going to move this 4 to the other side. So I've got x squared. I'm just going to kind of draw a line through here. There we go. X squared minus 4x plus line is equal to negative 4 plus line. Okay? Remember, you're dividing this by 2. So I divide this by 2 and I get negative 2 squared. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay? Oh, sorry. I wrote the problem down wrong. This is supposed to be a 40. So we have negative 40 over here. There we go. Like something doesn't look right. Sorry, that was supposed to be a 40. Okay. So, I have now x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to negative 40 plus 4. Right? Everybody following along? We need to factor this, correct? So when I factor it, I get x minus 2 is equal to negative 36. So I write this as x minus 2 squared is equal to negative 36. Now before we keep going, I want to see if you notice anything. Notice this number. Where else did you see it? Where did you get this plus 9? It's this number before you squared it, correct? Negative 2. Where's that? No, we are purposely making them perfect squares, okay? So if you do divide by 2, you can kind of, like I would skip this step and go straight to this one, okay? Because you know what it's going to be, okay? So now we're going to take the square root of each side. So I get x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus, I have a negative. What do I do when I have a negative inside my root? I take out the I, right? Then I see, can I take the square root of 36? Yes, I can. It is 6. So the square root of negative 36 is plus or minus 6i. Now I still have to add the 2, but I can't actually combine it. So it's 6 plus or minus 2i. Okay? Now, there's going to be some word problems on your homework. You're going to be doing this stuff with it. So read it twice. You can figure them out. It tells you where, like they give you the formulas, you plug them in, and then you solve. And they're going to look like problems like this. Okay? So just don't see, oh, word problems, I don't know what I'm doing. You can do them. Okay? I have confidence in you. Now remember, your quiz is on Thursday. If you have questions, come to the Zoom tomorrow, or I guess it would be today, or email me. You can email me on Wednesday. Okay? And then your quiz is on Thursday. Okay?